Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, this channel is all about Unreal Engine and photogrammetry. So what I do is I travel around the world, I do a lot of photo scanning, and then I bring those models into Unreal Engine and build environments from it. Eventually I will sell it on the Fab store. For this project I went to the Fanal Forest in Madeira, which truly is one of the most magical places on this planet. There I scanned around 30 trees. I'm now making a tutorial series where I'm going to show you everything that goes into creating these assets from beginning to the end. In this episode, it's finally time to publish everything into Unreal Engine, so I will show you how to get it into a blueprint and much more. We are finally done. It's now all imported into Unreal Engine, every texture and every mesh that I need. So let's take a look at what we got. So here I have the tree imported. So I have a few sections here. So the first thing to import is the mesh. So I got a folder for the mesh. If I double click this, you can see the first thing to get in is of course the tree itself. So this is the tree without any leaves. It's a naked tree, and this is kind of good because if you want to add your own stuff on top of it, or if you need a winter version of the tree, this is a good start. But you can, of course, add things yourself to this. But I have then also provided other stuff. So the next thing to bring in is all the leaves. This is the canopy. So it consists of two materials. I got one for the bigger twigs up here and then one for the little bit smaller leaves down here. And it's imported like a big clump like this, so there's no instancing going on in this mesh. So it's not optimized by any means. It can get a lot better, and in the future we will try to do that. I will always still provide one of these things because it's an easy way to get started and see what it actually looks like if I have like a whole cloud like this, but it is kind of intense. You see, we're looking at like over 1 million polygons for this, and if we would instance it, it would go down significantly. But Unreal is such a powerful engine that it still is not a problem when you have the nanite crossed in, and I have the nanite and I also have the preserve area ticked in. This will prevent some of the disappearance of the leaves, will keep the shape a little bit longer. But in the future, this will, of course, be voxelized as well, but only for version 5.7 and forward. So that means I still have to provide this version with the old nanite technique for foliage. So it all gets a bit messy, and there's going to be lots of little folders with all kinds of stuff in it for all kinds of situations. But let's see, let's move on. I have also the ferns in a separate. So this is just so you can turn things on and off. If it gets too heavy, you can remove it. And this is also the same. It's one big clump, and it would be easier if it was instance. Then I got the grass. And finally, I got the small plants. So these are now all 100% mesh based. They're all cut out. There are no alpha transparencies going on whatsoever. So we can check what that looks like in the material. I can just let's go to this one for instance. I'll open that. So this is what it looks like now. What I got the albedo, and I got the art textures. This is normally an alpha roughness and translucency. So the alpha would be to cut out this. But now, since everything is a mesh, I'm going to bypass the alpha. I'm not going to use it. I still am using my Foliage master material. So this one is set up with Unreal Engine's all Foliage tools. So you got translucency and also the ability to add an alpha map then to cut it out. But we're going to remove the alpha map. So what you do is you open the material property overrides and you go to the blend mode and set it to opaque instead of masked. This will make this irrelevant. But it's good to still it's good to still provide this in case you are using it for something else where you're not using this full technique. So that's why it's still in there. But the good thing is I can use the same material, but just click the opaque instead of the masked. So this goes for all of the materials that are used within these trees here, the growth, the foliage on here. And eventually I'm going to do it for all, even for these ones here. These ones here are still based on alpha maps to a certain degree. And when it comes to importing, you just import it as normal. I would do like just an import here and set the correct settings. And I can also drag and drop the folders in, which I do sometimes as well. You just drag it in and in it comes, and then you can rearrange it here as so you get a good overview. Because now we're getting quite a lot of assets that we need to handle. So everything's got materials, got textures, quite a few textures. You can see here I'm also using only 1K textures for these tiny things here. It's usually enough. It's more than enough actually for these tiny leaves and things. But I think the results are pretty good. It's looking like a nice asset. And in order to check that the leaves are actually working with the correct texture and everything, that they have the translucency, I got a point light here. So you can see this is the translucency effect you will get. See the shining through there. So that's important to have, or else it will look too static. Well, how do we handle this now? Because if I just drag in one of these, let's try it like this. It's going to be hard to get the other ones in correctly. It's you're going to have to type in the same value in the transforms here, which is a bit painful, of course. So let's just let's remove these. I'll show you. There are a few ways you can do this. Actually, you can. The first way you can do this is just select all of these, drag them in. Now they are on the same spot. And then you can, if you want, just select them all at the same time, and then you can move them at the same time. So that's, of course, extremely clumsy. So what I would like to do, at least what you can do, is you get the tree here, and then you get the other things. Grass, leaves, plants. And can put it underneath the tree. So now if you only select the tree, you would move the whole thing. So this is a valid thing to do if you're only going to have one or a couple of these trees. It only affects the things that are placed in the scene though, so it's nothing permanent at all. But this is probably the easiest way to get everything to move as one. But however, the technique I'm opting for here is to make a blueprint. And this is a blueprint. And I have it here. I call it BP for blueprint. And you can just drag it in like so. So they're quite easy to make. At least when you're, if it's as simple as this. If I double click it, you can see the structure of it here. So what you have to look for is this corner here, and it will create a default scene route, and then I just create a scene component and then just drag in all of the assets that I want, then compile, and it's done. So let's try that from the beginning. I'll just close this down, and we will create a blueprint class. Choose actor, name it test. Double click. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So you can actually drag it in the default scene route, but I prefer to have one above it. So if I type in scene, and then I can name this tree. So this is then a scene component. And then you just take them like so, or you take all of them, just put them in the hierarchy there. So now they're all All done. And then hit the compile. And there we have it. So now let's find a nice little spot for it. You can just drag that in. And it's as easy as that. So this would be the preferred technique for combining these things. Then you guys have full flexibility. You got everything separate. You can turn things on and off if you need to save memory, etc. And customize it to your heart's content. So that's it. Let's take a look in Houdini and see how I exported it. So as you remember, if you followed the series, we started up somewhere up here in the hierarchy where we did all the sculpting and imported that, and then we created the canopy, all the leaves and the foliage and all that kind of stuff. So all of these here, they will have an exit and out node that leads into this export here. So if we dive in, I collect everything here coming in as different streams. So these are all combined together, and if I check the first one here, which is just the tree, it's the one without anything on it, no leaves, no nothing, and then I save it out as an FBX. But before that, let's just see what is coming in. So we got the tree itself. This is without the small twigs, and then in comes one set of small twigs, and here is another set of even smaller twigs. So they all get merged. Do a little bit of cleanup. See to it so everything is triangulated and get some new fresh normals on it. And then we assign a material. So this is the material. So you need a kind of a material for so Unreal Engine can recognize it as a slot. Well, if you leave nothing there, it's still going to create one material slot. But if you have this one divided up into two materials, then you would have to create that here in Houdini. For this point, I'm using the UDIM system where UDIM 1001 is the trunk and 1002 is the branches. So it looks like this. You can also see here now that I have placed up here in the corner are all of the twigs. So I just made a little area here and just unwrapped everything into this here. So let's see if we can see anything zoomed in. It's such a densely packed area there now, so it's kind of tough to see. But it's something like this, and all of them just ends up on top of each other, and I got kind of a repeating texture here. And that works fine for these kind of things. Back to the material. However, I might have to, in some certain instances, I have to divide it up into two materials, one for trunk and one for branches, instead of using the UDIM system. And that could be easier in certain programs, and I might do that. But for now, for the one that lives within Unreal Engine, I'm going to keep it as a UDIM like this. After that, I would do what I call just a final placement. It's just a little bit of a tweak to whatever is needed. So if I see it here from the side, if I turn this off, I just rotate it just a tiny bit into place. Like this would be the natural way it was in nature, but then you have to construct everything around the slope. So if there is a possibility to do with a simple rotate, I would do just rotate it a tiny bit into place. I don't want to go in and start stretching or anything like that. I could do that to make it conform more to a neutral position, but I want to keep it as close to the way it was in reality. Then I also added in one here I call the scale extra. So you see it's a tiny bit smaller, because I think when I looked at it in Unreal Engine, it just felt a tiny bit too small. So this is just a simple extra fix that I put in, just getting it 25% bigger in the end. And then it gets saved out as a FBX. Important thing here is to not export it in ASCII format, because Blender doesn't accept ASCII, and if you have to make a trip to Blender, then this will be a problem. I also click in the convert units. This will make sure that the Houdini units will turn into whatever I'm using in Unreal Engine. So this would look exactly the same. I don't have to put in a scale number in Unreal Engine, so that's very handy. And I also have the compute smoothing groups clicked in. So this probably doesn't really do that much, to be honest, but we will take care of an error message you get when you import stuff. So smoothing groups is something, used to use them in 3D Studio Max and things like that. But and then I just save it out to the FBX there, and I do the same for the others. In they come. The only difference here is that I prefer to, because they come in and they're absolutely huge. So if I click here on the unpack, there we go. You can see how big they are coming in. So this one is 5 million polygons, and that's absolutely gigantic. It's not something you want to use for leaves. And I think Unreal Engine would handle it, but it wouldn't be very good. So I have to go through a poly reduce. So this would take it down to 50%, and I think I might do 25%. Maybe that's even better. But let's keep it like that now. So now we're down to 2.5 million. So I think I would aim at maybe having this somewhere a little bit north of 1 million as well. That would be quite good, I think. But you do lose quite a lot of detail, and now that everything is mesh-based as well, it would get a tiny bit faceted. But not a big deal, I don't think. It still looks pretty good. But the future would be, of course, to have everything instanced on top of points. But that will come in the future release, I think. And then this gets exported as well. And the same here for the plants. They also get a tiny bit of a reduce, just to keep it in check. Same with the ferns. So you don't have to chase after any kind of super low poly, because the nanite, it does work better with lots of polygons. It's easier for it to calculate how it's going to decimate it over distance then. And the grass as well. So all of these get saved out separately and then imported into our Unreal Engine and then put them into that blueprint that I showed you. And then we just import everything, like I showed you before, into Unreal Engine, and we're ready to go. Except one thing. Let's check this out. So if I hit play, we're now in game mode. And if I start walking around, you will see I get some hard stops here. It's because I got some pretty extreme collisions turned on. So it will automatically create collisions for the meshes that you import. However, they are not always what you want. You see, I can't really get close to any of these. So let's fix that. Let's turn these off and make our own collisions. Now, it's very important to have proper collisions when you send it off to Unreal Engine in the Fab Store when it's a map like this. When it's an FBX, there's nothing you can do about it, of course. But when it's a map, you need proper collisions. So let's see what we got. So first of all, let's see if I open this one. These are the ferns. You can see they should all... Let's see if we can... Let's see if we can show the collisions. Turn on the simple collisions here. So there you can see the problem is. So it tries to create this collision box around all of the objects, and this is nowhere near correct. Now for things like this, the foliage, I prefer to have no collision at all. It's much easier if you can just move straight through it. So I will turn off collision completely. Just remove collision. And that's that. Can hit the save. And do that for the grass. You can see here as well. Show collision. Looks weird. Remove collision. And collision removed. Now this one is the one we need to work on. So if I click the show the simple collision, get it like this. And we can just remove that as well. So what I prefer to do for this is create a series of capsules. Will be a good start. Up here. Because this one is so complex. There are other ways to create it, but when you get into all of these tiny things up here, it just becomes very, very tricky to create collisions any other way. And I found that a simple capsule is probably the best way to go. So there you go. It's a bit on the big side. Now, for some reason, this capsule here, it's kind of lives in its own little world when it comes to transforms and things. It just behaves very, very strangely, so it's not that much fun to work with, perhaps. So what I do, I just try to match it up roughly here. You can get as close as you want. Try to at least. Something like that. I can duplicate it with Control C and Control V. So we just go. You see, it's kind of an odd thing, this, but okay, something like that. And then I would continue just a little bit, maybe a little bit higher up, and then maybe this as well. But let's say this is good enough for now, and hit the save it. Let's see if we play it now. And there you can see it's a lot better now. All right. And there we have it. It is finally done. Now, this was quite a few more steps than I thought it would be when I started this out. It is a pretty hard task to do. It's a little bit more complicated than just your average ruin piece or some other kind of stone or whatever. So this is probably as hard as it gets, because the nature of the thing, where at being on location and scanning these in the fog and everything, you get kind of a little bit of corrupted data, and you have to rely on your sculpting and painting skills to get it to look right. But with a lot of work, you do get there to something that looks like it should, and I'm quite happy with the results. Now what I have to do now is I have 10 of these trees to make, and I'm going to follow exactly the steps that I've been doing so far. Hopefully I can improve it a little bit with each one that I do. But for now, this is pretty much it. This is what I wanted to show you. There's just one more thing about the trees, and that's how to publish it to the Fab Store. So that will be the next episode. I'm going to go through everything you need to know if you're planning on publishing things on the Fab Store. It's the naming conventions and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm only going to do the FBX. So the FBX, or it's like a standalone mesh. So it's only the tree that's going to get published there with all the textures and everything. The full Unreal map will come eventually, but first I have to do all the trees, and then I have to do some parts of the ruins as well, and then the full map will be completed. But I think now that I have gone through a couple of these trees already, I got maybe 5 or 6 left to do. I think it will go a lot faster, and I will be down to maybe doing a tree in, well, let's say 3 or 4 days, I hope, something like that, from beginning to end. So still a long time for one asset, but practice makes perfect, and I hope it will go faster soon. Because now that everything is, all the tools are being made and everything, it will be faster for sure. So, but still, a lot of work to making these. I didn't expect it to be that hard, but that's the case. So join me next time for some publishing to the Fab Store. And then after that, there is more to come, but I will probably return with the Fanal Forest project once I have done all the trees. I will talk about that, how that went, and then we start doing the ruins as well, and then we're going to do a full publish of the whole map as well. So lots of work to do still, but it's going to be lots of fun, so I hope to see you around next time.